Let's begin by telling you that Nigerians continue to call on the government to seek a lasting solution to the looming fuel crisis currently bedeviling the country. In Lagos, long queues could still be seen in front of fuel stations where motorists wait frustratingly in anticipation of buying petrol. News Centre's Akede was out in Lagos monitoring the situation as it enters its third day.
This is wrong. This is very, very bad. This is wrong.
More frustration and anger on the faces of motorists and customers in Lagos trying to buy petrol as our coverage of the looming scarcity enters day 3. Regardless of how much the stations sell per litre, as long as petrol is available for sale, customers are willing to queue for hours.
It has not been easy at all. I'm just using this medium to plead to the government to consider the masses. It has been a long suffering. How can we go? How long are we going to go about this buying fuel today, then with the little amount you have? And at the end of the day, probably you still have to lose a ton of coming to filling station and queue. At least I've been here since 5 a.m. now. This is, what's this by the time now? This is 10 a.m. And I need to be on my duty to attend to people as well. But it has not been easy. We're using this medium to please, begging the government to consider the masses, to do whatever they can do to help us.
This recent scarcity, which has now lingered off and on for about 6 weeks, has inflicted further hardship on the citizens. Some have complained that the unavailability of petrol and fluctuation of the price has gravely affected their businesses.
Some are selling 900, 950. Yeah, I'll be here almost 1 hour now to get fuel. They have to do something about it. They have to. It's getting out of hand. It's not easy for everybody. It's not easy for us. People that you are carrying, they will not even be able to pay the money, because when you buy fuel of 900, 950, you can't make the money. So almost like a week now, I have not been driving my car. Just park the car at home.
Earlier in the month, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, again attributed the scarcity to distribution and logistic challenges faced in the transfer of the product from mother vessel to daughter vessels. Though the NNPCL further urged motorists to shun panic buying as it was working round the clock with relevant stakeholders to restore normalcy, the situation on the ground suggests that motorists are running out of patience.
Nigerians are now clearly frustrated with this off and on season of petrol availability, or in this case, inavailability. They are asking that regardless of how high the cost goes, they are willing to pay. All they ask is that the product remains steadily available. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Akede.
Governor of Rivers State, Governor Fubara, has insisted that despite speculators of his dumping the People's Democratic Party, PDP, over the ongoing political crisis in the state, Rivers is still a PDP-controlled state. Governor Fubara made the reaffirmation when a delegation of the Board of Trustees, BOTs of the PDP, led by Chairman Adolfo Swabara, visited him at the Government House in Port Harcourt on Tuesday. My colleague Austin Azu completes the report.
Rivers State has been embroiled in political crisis, from the state lawmakers that allegedly defected to the APC and tenure allegation for elected local government chairmen that were replaced with caretaker committee chairmen by the governor, thereby leading place to take over the 23 council secretariat complexes. This development, however, created speculations that Governor Fubara would want to settle his political differences by leaving the PDP for APC, the party at the national level.
As we speak, a new caretaker is being...
In search of peace and unity of the PDP in the states, a delegation of the Board of Trustees of the party, who are scared of losing Rivers State, are here at Government House in Port Harcourt to seek a way forward for the party in the state, especially as they galvanize towards 2027 general elections.
But we, as elders of this party, decided to come to hear from the horse's mouth. First of all, we want to thank you for still being there, because this party should not be allowed to die.
Governor Fubara, who expressed satisfaction over the visit, said he doubted his membership of the PDP at some time, But the visitation from the BOT has offered a stronger conviction that he is a member of the PDP family. He further maintains that in such efforts to search out the truth, it remains vital for them to understand how passionately he cherishes the importance of information and the need to stay on the path of truth.
Happy that today they are with us here to discuss the issue of Rivers State. And I want to assure members of our party, genuine members of PDP that are here with us, that this is another hope to show that our decision to stand by the party, still standing by the party, is not the wrong decision.
Briefing newsmen after the meeting with the governor and other elders and leaders of the PDP in the state, Fubara expressed appreciation to Governor Fubara for giving them the opportunity to hear his own side of the story, and noted with optimism that the political crisis in the state will soon be resolved.
We discussed, and I think we are properly guided, now. So the BOT will, in its stride, move on, to ensure that there is peace in this state, there is peace in the party, and there is unity.
The chairman, however, emphasized that based on its findings, the BOT will make its recommendations to the National Working Committee of the PDP for implementation, bearing in mind that the party must be united to win the 2027 elections. In Port Harcourt for News Central, Austin Azul.
Away from that, the FCT Minister Ezewuike discussed his achievements during a media briefing marking his one-year anniversary in office. Wike highlighted his commitment to human capital development, citing the establishment of women and youth secretariats to promote inclusivity in governance. In the agricultural sector, the minister revealed plans to boost food production, aiming for self-sufficiency in staples like rice and cassava. He also reported significant improvements in security, emphasizing a decrease in crime and criminality since taking office. Wike spoke on this administration's infrastructure projects designed to enhance road accessibility within the FCT. Additionally, he reaffirmed his loyalty to the PDP, urging the party to uphold the rule of law and dispelling rumors of a potential defection.
I have told you that I don't want to wait for any fight. I will stay there. I will fight it out.
In the PDP?
Yes. Who am I going to run for? The vampires? How can you say that? Our ambition is to make FCT be a livable city where people can feel comfortable, where we can say yes. We have been traveling around the world. We have seen how cities are planned. We have seen infrastructure in cities. That is our own ambition, to turn FCT to one of the best cities in the world, not only because of infrastructure, but also in terms of environment, also in terms of security, that, look, we're happy. If a state, for example, has election petition, or you talk with the governor will say, oh, I want to bring the lawyer that will stand for PDP. It's okay, you will pay such amount of money. Or he will bring, and then you will tell the person to charge fee. He collects his own. Now, I say that will stop.
And in Delta State, Governor Fubara has said his administration was working to leave a mark for future generations and not to please anyone but God. Governor Fubara disclosed this when he played host to President of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, PFM Bishop Wale Oke, and his delegation at the Government House, Asaba. He said his administration has done a lot in the delivery of infrastructure and human capital development across the state, and expressed optimism that he would continue to work for more progress and development of the state.
My God. I'm here to serve the people. I want to do what I will be remembered for. so that by the time I leave, you say, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. But I'm not here to please man, but to please God. So before you leave, pray for me. Pray for Delta State. For God to order our steps. For God to guide us. For God to bring peace, permanent peace in Delta State. Because in my more agenda, I said I'm going to enhance peace and security. We are having challenges of insecurity across the country. Delta State is not the only particular. It's not particular to Delta State. But we want it to stop. Because that's the only way development can come to the state.
And then number two is to appreciate the government of Delta State for the great work that you're doing. The peace in Delta State, which at one time used to be turbulent with communal clashes. Now there is peace in Delta State. The progress of Delta State and the advancement and the development under your leadership.
Must tell you that President Bola Tinubu has mourned the victims of the devastating flood in Jigawa State, assuring the state government of his administration support. Over 16 people were killed and more than 3,000 displaced in flood disasters in 14 local government areas of the state. The president, in a statement on Wednesday by his spokesperson, Ajirin Galale, condoled with the state government over the issue that also displaced many residents. The president prays for the repose of the souls of the deceased. On security matters, President Bola Tinubu has lauded Nigeria's Inspector General of Police over his efforts at combating insecurity in the country. President Tinubu, who gave the remark alongside other dignitaries at a book launch to honor the achievements of the IGP, says that the book is a testament to his leadership quality and will serve as a valuable resource for future generations. President Tinubu, who was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, commended Police Chief for his dedication and visionary leadership to peace, security, and policing in Nigeria.
Ezewuike is one of those rare figures who has consistently stood tall and resolute in our nation's security architecture. His leadership has been inspirational, guiding many into the noble profession of policing through exemplary display of courage and commitment.
I must, however, acknowledge the significant impact of a particular individual on my life and career. I met President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 1998, and that meeting produced positive transformation in my life within 24 hours.
We want a short break now. We have more news when we return. Do stay with us. The Nigeria Data Protection Commission says that it has imposed a 555 million naira fine on Fidelity Bank for non-compliance with the nation's data law. The National Commissioner of the NDPC, who made this known during a validation workshop on the Nigeria Data Protection Act, General Application and Implementation Directive in the nation's capital, Abuja. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
Data privacy over the years has been a source of concern for Nigeria until the Nigeria Data Protection Act of 2023 was recently signed to guide efforts aimed at data collection, protection, and privacy. Since the legislation came into force in June last year, several organizations have been under investigation over non-compliance and data breaches, with many of them fined to the tune of millions in naira.
Since we started, the only time that we used a major penalty was yesterday, on Fidelity Bank. We've issued a fine of about 555 million to Fidelity Bank that they have to pay because there were some observed breaches. I will be working with them since 2023, April 2023, when we started the investigation. By the time we finalized, we became arrogant, so we decided to issue a full penalty on them, which is about 0.1% of their gross earnings for 2023.
To avoid instances where people will complain of not having a proper understanding of the legislation, the Commission came up with a General Application and Implementation Directive. However, in order to subject this to the review of stakeholders, a validation workshop has been convened.
The guide makes provision, explains that this is the situation with the privacy if you want to process the personal data of an individual.
We did the first one in Lagos on the 19th of June this year. So this is the second one that we're doing to ensure that everybody is involved in whatever we're doing. So by the time the document is out, we all see it as our document because we'll be able to make our own inputs.
With the Nigeria data ecosystem still at its infancy, there is an emphasis on continuous sensitization on available data laws to enable citizens have a full grasp of the law.
The whole thing is about awareness, for people to know what we have in the law, to know what they should do and what they should not do.
The Commission says that the input of stakeholders from its last validation workshop will be collated to help conduct a thorough review of the original draft in order to incorporate the views of stakeholders to ensure that they abide by existing laws. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
To health matters now, Nigeria's federal government, in collaboration with the African Leaders Malaria Alliance, have launched a new initiative to strengthen the country's ongoing effort against malaria and neglected tropical diseases. With the launch of this initiative, Nigeria can now be listed among the top 10 countries that have put measures in place to mobilize youths against diseases threatening citizens. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, tells us more.
Malaria constitutes one of the leading causes of death among infants in Nigeria. This continues to pose a significant challenge on the nation's public health sector, with 1 in 3 citizens experiencing incidents of malaria every year. Similarly, some neglected tropical diseases also continue to affect the most vulnerable in Nigeria, putting communities in a circle of disease and poverty.
NTDs contains about 21 diseases in one. So that underscores the problem that we are facing.
With Nigeria accounting for about 31% of the global cases of malaria and about 25% of the burden of neglected tropical diseases in Africa, the World Health Organization decision to allocate 18 million vaccines to Africa from 2023 to 2025 has raised fear of vaccine adverse effects. While the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration Control has maintained that the vaccine is yet to be imported into the country, News Central Television made another effort to speak to the Director of Public Health in the Federal Ministry of Health over the issue, but he declined to speak.
This is one administrative issues that I wouldn't want to discuss in the public because of the Honorable Minister is fully in charge of that. So I want you to leave that vaccine issue out of context for now.
With these challenges confronting Nigeria's public health sector, several stakeholders say that there is need for all hands to be on the deck as it has become paramount.
Youth corps programs have been launched in 9 countries as of yesterday, and I don't know if it is because our JJ Okocha has the jersey number 10. Nigeria today, the 20th of August, is going to be marked as the 10th country across the continent.
These champions and volunteer force will lead community-based initiatives that drive behavioral change and policy support.
With about 6 years left to eliminate neglected tropical diseases in Nigeria, citizens have been tasked to play their part in ensuring a healthy society and life for all. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
The Lagos state government has resumed its free medical outreach program, Alafia-Eko, to address the growing concerns of rising drug costs and limited access to quality healthcare in the state. This initiative aims to not only provide essential healthcare services to residents, but also raise awareness about the underutilization of primary healthcare centers, promoting better healthcare access for all. News Center's Adeshawa Odushoga has more.
Lagos State, with over 300 primary healthcare centers, faces a paradox. Despite being the closest to the grassroots, these centers are underutilized, leading to overcrowding and overwhelming pressure on general hospitals. The rising cost of drugs and limited access to quality healthcare disproportionately affect vulnerable communities, exacerbating the state's cost of living crisis. In response, the Lagos State government launched the Alafia-Eko program, a free medical outreach aimed at providing essential healthcare services to residents across 6 health districts.
We know the cost of medication had gone up. People were not seeking healthcare because of the cost. They were staying at home. So one of the plans was that, you know what, why don't we do something that will reach out to the people at no cost to them, not a single kobo.
This also creates an opportunity to get more people enrolled on the Ilera-Eko scheme. Because when people come out here, one of the things we're doing is registering them for Ilera-Eko. So we'll get more people getting onto health insurance. And then at that point also, we're screening people. Those who are absolutely unable to afford to get on Ilera-Eko will get on the Ekosha scheme, which is for indigents where the state bears the cost of the insurance.
We've realized that we have a poor health-seeking behavior in Lagos State because you were asking that we have so many facilities. We have 329 primary health centers. Why are we not getting the patronage? They are overflogging the general hospitals.
The first phase, held in May, targeted 4 units per district, serving approximately 1,000 citizens per unit. These services are offered at no cost to residents under the Eko Cares initiative, designed to deliver essential healthcare services to Lagosians.
I have a malaria, so I come for it. So as they're free, I like to come because it is free. Everything is cost now. Anywhere I see free something, I will go there so that I will help myself.
I think it has a lot of benefits because if I should go to any private hospital, I know how much it will cost me. And this is one of the benefits that we are expecting from the government, even though we expect more than this. I'm here for general checkup, for my blood, for anti-malaria, and for my eyes.
While the initiative has been praised for its prompt response to subsidizing healthcare costs for vulnerable communities, concerns about sustainability linger. Questions remain about the long-term viability of such project, particularly with the transition to a new administration, raising doubt about how long these services can be maintained. In Lagos for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
Coming up, Mpox screening ramped up at Kenya-Uganda border. That is after the break. Do stay with us. Glad you're still with us. The South African Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation held bilateral discussions with the delegation of the United Nations in South Africa, led by its resident coordinator. The meeting took place on the sidelines of the ongoing migration conference. The discussions reaffirmed the ongoing collaboration and partnership between the South African government and the UN, aimed at promoting sustainable development in the context of the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. Both parties agreed to strengthen partnership in accordance with principles espoused in the National Development Plan, African Union Agenda 2063, and the Global UN Sustainable Development Goals as the international community prepares for the upcoming Summit of the Future to be held later this year at the UN headquarters in New York. Spokesperson for the Ministry of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Lita Mpomdwana, joins us now to speak on this. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Can you provide also with some overview of the key topics discussed during the minister's recent meeting with the UN delegation?
Good evening to you and your viewers. So the Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in South Africa, Ms. Marubeni Ramokgopa, on the sidelines of the migration conference that's currently taking place in Johannesburg, met with representatives of the United Nations in South Africa. These representatives, led by the country representative, Mr. Nelson Mufo, included senior leaders in the other branches of the United Nations who are present in South Africa. And this was just an alignment meeting, just to reaffirm the collaboration and partnership that has been continuing over several decades now between South Africa and the United Nations. And just to emphasize that importance of South Africa, the Southern African community and the African Union, in fact, as a whole, collaborating with the United Nations in furthering the development aims of South Africa locally, regionally, and internationally.
How does the minister view the strategic importance of maintaining strong relations with the UN for South Africa's developmental agenda?
So South Africa and the United Nations have had key partnerships and collaborations over the past several years, and these have led through several sectors. The United Nations, through its different bodies, plays a big role in furthering South Africa's development aims, such as in key issues such as health, migration, and the economy. And in turn, South Africa, as along with the SADC and AU community, have also contributed significantly to the UN in those respective fields. So this meeting was just to give confidence to the United Nations, and also for United Nations to give that to South Africa, that these partnerships will continue, and that South Africa and the African continent play a key role in ensuring that development initiatives in the world are implemented. And that was the message from our minister as well, that through all the decades that South Africa and the United Nations have had these partnerships, the important priority now will be to implement all of these interventions, all of these discussion topics, all of these frameworks that have been developed over the past while to further the development agenda. If I may also add context, several of our development plans, such as South Africa's own national development plan, and also the SDGs, their targets are getting nearer and nearer. So there is that need to implement all of the reforms and all of the policies and plans that have been made through the collaboration between the United Nations and countries such as South Africa.
We understand the delegation is attending the migration conference. Did the meeting also touch on the migration issues and how best South Africa can tackle the high number of migrants in the country?
Yes, that's a key theme of which informed the meeting, because the meeting did occur on the sidelines of the migration conference that is taking place in the country, being led by South Africa's National Planning Commission, the International Organization for Migration, and the United Nations Development Program. And a big theme of this conference is discussing development migration as a development catalyst to also ensure international collaboration. So collaboration is the big underlining word in terms of addressing the migration matter, and that's been one of those key issues that have been a point of discussion. For example, ideally, you want migration to take place not as a first circumstance for communities, but rather as a choice, and that is something that could take collaboration to address. And so the minister's message was for the importance for communities in the continent to collaborate on how migration can work effectively for the countries in which people migrate to, and also the host countries in which people move from. Because then you would find a way in which migration can work for everyone, instead of migration perhaps being a burden for the country in which people move to, but also that the countries in which people move from can also be perhaps have those capabilities to be able to retain the skills and resources that they'll be leaving when people leave those respective countries. So migration as a of collaboration to address challenges that might occur in matters relating to migration.
Later, thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Now, the Home Affairs Department says it's paid a whole visit to the Mozambican-born mother of Chidinma Adesina and has now issued her with a legal letter to explain her case or face having her identity registration cancelled. The Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation has also been roped in to investigate possible fraudulent activity of a former Miss South Africa contestant Chidinma Adesina's citizenship status. In a presentation to Parliament's Home Affairs Portfolio Committee on Tuesday, the department reiterated prima facie reasons exist to believe fraud and identity theft may have been committed by the person recorded at the department as Adesina's mother. Adesina's father is also being investigated as he was also involved in her registration of birth. The department has also identified 3 officials who registered the birth at its office in Johannesburg. One of the officials has since died, and the department is investigating 2 others who may have been involved in the alleged fraudulent scheme. Let's get some perspective on that. Elton Hart, attorney with the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic, joins us now. Thank you for giving us your time. Give us some perspective. Maybe explain the legal definition of identity theft and how it applies to Chidinma's mother.
When one looks at the term identity theft in South Africa, we don't have explicit or legislation that governs this, and hence we have to deal with identity theft normally under the common law, and it's normally prosecuted under what we call fraud, forgery, or an attempt to actually mislead people, and it's normally like these common law offenses, and there is not like where you have a law. Yes, we do have the Protection of Personal Information Act that also make a person guilty of certain offenses, but the term identity theft, there is not a specific piece of legislation that's there, but it's when you assume the identity of another person, either through registering yourself with the authorities in South Africa and requiring legal documents pertaining to that person that attaches to that person. And that is in contravention of the POPI Act, as we call it in South Africa, and that is when identity theft happens. And it can happen when there's like money involved, or you just take identity to gain citizenship and benefits of a citizen in any country, and it can happen anywhere in the world, which with cyber spaces and everything, this happens on a daily basis.
What are the potential legal consequences for Chidinma's mother if found guilty?
As I said, it's these types of crimes is prosecuted under common law, and as a first-time offender, she faces a possible 15 to 25 years imprisonment if she's found guilty that she actually stole the identity of another individual who is South African born, and they can prove it beyond reasonable doubt that she is not the owner of that identity. Then she faces that. When we talk about Adesina, Chidinma, she was an infant at that stage, so she cannot really be held responsible for her mother's actions. And does it mean now if they cancel the mother's citizenship in South Africa, she becomes a stateless child? So that would be now something in contravention of human rights laws. And I think we'll still see a lot of battles going down in the courts pertaining to the citizenship of Chidinma specifically, because she was born here, and the mother's actions, and I know already how the Mozambican, or I think it's Mozambican law says what happens to a child born under the circumstances of Chidinma.
If Home Affairs blocks Chidinma's ID, what does that mean for her educational opportunities?
No, it means they may block her ID, but maybe they might give her a temporary document that allows her to still complete her studies, because obviously one looks at our Children's Act and says that whenever you do something, you must do it in the best interest of the child. So they should not limit her. And that's why I'm saying, that there will still be a lot of litigation. And we have the South African Human Rights Commission. They're already looking into this matter, because this is now where you're actually going to spoil a child's future. If you take away a citizenship, then it means that she's no longer a South African citizen. She's not entitled to the funding schemes that's available to South Africans to actually complete the studies. And she's left in limbo for a period of time until this investigation is completed. And this can drag on for years. So I think there will be court battles. And yes, there will be serious ramifications for her education if they say she cannot enter the country, because I heard she was going to contest in some pageant in Nigeria, the Miss Universe, and if she comes back and they block her from coming in, it means that they're actually blocking her from the only country that she actually knew from birth up until now.
All right, Elton, thank you for joining us on the news. Earlier, we had a leader who confirmed that South Africa is indeed hosting the migration conference in Johannesburg. This four-day gathering brings together high-level and technical officials from Southern African Development Community, SADC member states, the African Union Commission, United Nations agencies, international organizations, civil society, and public and private sector representatives. The conference provides a dynamic platform for stakeholders across the SADC region to explore and discuss migration as a driver of development. My colleague, Bongani Sisiba, gives us more.
In the heart of Cape Town, South Africa, an ongoing struggle unfolds, one that echoes through the cities and countries across the continent and beyond. Millions of migrants and refugees have fled from war, conflict, and poverty, seeking safety and opportunities. But what awaits them in their new homes? At this refugee camp, amidst the vibrant scenery, children roam around this tent playing, laughing, yet yearning for a place in the classroom. Here in this vibrant city, many refugee children miss out on their education, left without means to secure the necessary papers for enrollment. This isn't just isolated to South Africa. The migrant crisis ripples through the continent and the world. From the Mediterranean to the Americas, nations grapple with the influx of those seeking a better life, while struggling to integrate them into their societies. In response, a vital migration conference is taking place in Johannesburg. Delegates from Southern African Development Community and beyond have gathered to address the pressing issues surrounding migration and integration policies.
Migration becomes important because it brings different skills, and it also brings an opportunity to actually be able to bring whatever it is that can actually be utilized to attract more investment and development. But besides that, we really do believe that if we plan it correctly and utilize the policies that are necessary, migration can actually be able to assist us to harness its dividend into building different sectors of society, including the economic development.
In South Africa, the challenges of migration from neighboring countries has grown bigger.
Certain provinces which are seen as economic centers in the country attract this disproportionate number of people. This further strains the existing resources and infrastructure in those areas. This matter must be addressed by confronting the legacy of apartheid spatial planning and continues to affect us today, here in South Africa in particular.
It's not enough just to talk about change. There is need for actionable policies that will empower migrants and host communities alike.
There is a global compact for safe, orderly and regular migration that has been agreed upon by countries to come together and address migration from a perspective of international cooperation. And this is a framework that can be used as a best practice for countries to leverage on those benefits.
As discussions intensifies, there is hope that this gathering will overlay clips of refugees in Cape Town and others around the region and their lived realities on the ground.
Countries have a very big role to play in terms of ensuring that those stories are heard of migrants, but also stories of the people in which migrants are engaging with and interacting with in host countries. So it's very, very important. So I find that that is lacking in what we do a lot, about stories, about engagement between people who come from different countries, who come from greener pastures, but also people who would want to share some of their knowledge and experience and expertise.
Will this conference be merely another gathering of discussions, or will it yield tangible results that can rewrite the stories of those struggling in the shadows? In Cape Town and others alike in the region, families are hoping for real change, a future where their children can play, learn, and thrive in safety. Migration is a global issue, and its complexities are profound. As everyone engaged in these vital discussions, the question remains, how can words be put into action? The future of millions hangs in the balance. This is a shared responsibility, a global challenge. In Johannesburg, for News Central, Bongani Sisiba.
Let's bring you one of our lead stories this evening. In East Africa, Kenya and Uganda have ramped up their screening process at the border after the World Health Organization declared the mpox surge in Africa a global public health emergency. Outbreaks have been reported in Burundi, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda since July.
It is a disease of international health concern. We heightened our alertness and preparedness.
Amnesty International says Burundi's President Evariste Ndayishimiye continues to rule with an unrelenting wave of repression despite hopes of change when he took office 4 years ago. The organization claims human rights defenders, journalists, and members of the opposition are still subject to intimidation, harassment, arbitrary detention, and unfair prosecution. Ndayishimiye, who took power in June 2020 after the unexpected death of President Pierre Nkurunziza, has been lauded by the international community for slowly ending years of isolation under his predecessor's chaotic and bloody rule, although concerns about right abuses persist. In 2015, Nkurunziza's run for a third term in office sparked protest and a failed coup, with violence leaving at least 1,200 people dead, while about 400,000 fled the country. In sports, head coach of Nigeria women's under-20 team, Chris Danjuma, has released a 21-man squad ahead of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup set to take place in Colombia from August the 31st to September 22. Danjuma's squad includes some players who have seen action with the senior women's national team, the Super Falcons. They include defenders Jumoke Alani and Comfort Folorunshaw, midfielder Rofied Imuran, and forwards Chiamaka Okuchukwu and Flourish Sebastian. The Falconets are gearing up for their first friendly against Australia, which is set to take place at the club Banco de la República in Bogota on Friday, scheduled for 4 p.m. Nigeria time. Nigeria will then go on to play Mexico in another friendly match at the same venue next week, Monday. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take a quick recap of our major stories. Long queues have continued across Nigeria as petrol shortage enters third day. Mpox screening has been ramped up at Kenya-Uganda border. We also brought you news that the Amnesty International has said Burundi under wave of repression. Do send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media as well at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for watching.